You think you see people as they are, but you don't. You see shadows cast on the walls of your own fear, your own hunger. Every smile you trust is a strategy. Every kindness you cherish is a calculation. Every word you believe is a weapon in someone else's quiet war against you. Machiavelli warned, men are driven by two things: love and fear, and both can be faked. What if you could peel away the mask? What if you could see, in the first instant, the primal motives pulsing behind someone's words? This isn't intuition, this isn't empathy, this is dissection of the mind, of the soul, of the self. But here is the darker truth: the more clearly you see through others, the more you see through yourself. Every tactic you uncover in them, you discover lurking in you. Are you ready to see everyone for what they are, even yourself? Or will you flinch when you realize every single person you've ever trusted has already been reading you? A smile disarms you because it mimics sincerity. In the 1920s, researcher Edward Thorndike documented the halo effect. One positive trait you perceive, like a warm smile, blinds you to everything else. Does it reach their eyes? Is it symmetrical? Is it too fast or too slow? Micro-expressions studied by Paul Ekman reveal contempt, disgust, fear behind smiles lasting only 1/25th of a second. The real smile is rare, the tactical smile is everywhere, and every time you mistake it for trustworthiness, you hand them the keys to your defenses. It's not love you feel when someone beams at you, it's a chemical fog, dopamine floods, your judgment collapses. The question is, how many times a day do you smile as a weapon? Machiavelli knew this centuries earlier. He wrote that rulers should seem merciful while secretly being ruthless. People want to believe in goodness so badly, they'll manufacture it on your face. When you meet someone, watch their smile carefully. The question isn't whether others smile at you to manipulate you. Every compliment is a negotiation disguised as a gift. The psychologist Dale Carnegie observed that humans are starved for validation and that flattery feeds that hunger, bending people to your will. Compliments light up the brain's reward centers, creating a momentary trance where the recipient feels seen, even loved. But Machiavelli warned, men are so simple and so subject to present necessities that he who deceives will always find someone who will let himself be deceived. When someone praises you, slow down, listen beneath the words. Is their compliment specific or vague? Do they reward you after you serve their purpose or before as bait? Behavioral economics calls this the principle of reciprocity. Compliment someone and they'll feel compelled to repay you, often in ways they don't even notice. And yet, what do? You dish out praise to win favor, soften resistance, control outcomes, don't you? Every well done you whisper is a quiet contract they never read before signing. So ask yourself, when they say they admire you, what exactly are they buying? You already know the eyes are the window to the soul, but you've never really looked, have you? In 1967, psychologist Albert Mehrabian quantified communication. Only 7% is verbal. The fleeting glance to the exit when they're hiding something. The darting down to the left when they're constructing a lie, down to the right when they're accessing truth. Studies at the University of Chicago show liars tend to blink more often, their gaze flickering, betraying their script. Rest is tone, body, and most of all the eyes. Eye contact or its absence leaks what the tongue tries to conceal. Machiavelli understood this centuries before. Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are. When you stare into someone's eyes, look for the micro shifts, the dilation of pupils when desire or fear surges. But it cuts both ways. Every time you tell your own little lies, your pupils betray you, your gaze telegraphs your inner wars. So next time you meet someone's eyes, are you reading them? Or are they already reading you? You've been trained to fear silence in a conversation. You rush to fill the gaps as if words alone keep you alive. But silence is the oldest tactic in the book and one of the most brutal. In silence, you can watch others undo themselves without lifting a finger. When you speak less, people project more, filling the void with their own confessions, their own guilt. That's why skilled interrogators let silence do the cutting. The 1950s still face experiment by Edward Tronick showed how infants break down, panic, and lose trust when a caregiver goes quiet and blank. That same infant still lives in you. When someone withdraws their words, their warmth, their reactions, you feel it as punishment. You flinch, you reveal yourself, you offer more than you intended just to end the unbearable quiet. Machiavelli hinted at this. The wise man does at once what the fool does at last. And yet when you fall silent, don't you feel naked? You can't help but wonder, what do they hear in the noise of your absence? You don't see others, you see yourself reflected in their surface. Freud called it projection. The mind is trick of disowning its own darkness by imagining it in others. That man who seems arrogant, perhaps only echoing your own unspoken pride. That woman who seems deceitful, perhaps only reflecting the lies you've buried. Reflect back what they need to see, and they'll mistake their own needs for your essence. They'll trust you because they think you are them. Machiavelli advised rulers to judge by results, not intentions, because intentions are invisible, and invisibility invites projection. Social psychologist Lee Ross proved it in the fundamental attribution error. We blame others' behavior on character while excusing our own as circumstance. You accuse others of being cold because you fear your own chill. You suspect others of envy because you are quietly envious. If you know this, you can weaponize it, become a mirror. But when you stare too long into someone else's mirror, what happens when you no longer recognize the face staring back? You are not who you think you are who you need to seem to be. Leon Festinger's theory of cognitive dissonance showed how the mind twists itself to maintain a sense of consistency. Once you commit publicly to a choice, you begin to believe in it even if it's a lie. Machiavelli exploited this flaw mercilessly. Force a man to act in your interest once, and he will contort his mind to believe he wanted it all along. People would rather rewrite their beliefs than admit to being wrong. This is why the most dangerous tactic is the smallest one. Get them to say yes just once. It's called the foot in the door technique, demonstrated in 1966 by Friedman and Fraser, who showed that people who agreed to a small favor were far more likely to later agree to a bigger one. And yet, think of how many times you felt trapped by your own words, your own past decisions, playing a part you no longer believe in. When you look in the mirror tonight, will you still recognize the story you keep telling about yourself? You crave what you cannot have, not because it has value, but because it is withheld. Cialdini's scarcity principle proved that when access to something is limited, its perceived worth multiplies. Machiavelli advised rulers to ration their generosity and deny themselves fully, knowing that absence ignites longing more fiercely than presence. History is littered with wars fought not for abundance but for the illusion of something rare. Watch closely. When someone withdraws their attention, their time, their affection, don't you lean in harder? Scarcity triggers fear, fear of loss, fear of insignificance, and in that fear, you offer more, surrender more, believe more. What was once worthless becomes sacred once it's just out of reach. And when you wield scarcity yourself, you become dangerous. Deny what they take for granted. Deny your approval. Deny your presence. Watch how quickly they reshape themselves to win back what they thought was theirs. But when everyone is playing the same game, what happens when no one is willing to give anymore? You think you decide, but the choice was made for you before you even noticed. Machiavelli wrote, "Men are so simple and so much creatures of circumstance that the deceiver will always find someone to deceive." Behavioral economics calls this choice architecture. You re-given two doors and told you re-free, but both lead where? They want you to go. The famous jam experiment by Inger and Lepper showed that when people were offered 24 kinds of jam, they felt overwhelmed and chose nothing. But when offered only 6, they felt free and chose quickly. Control someone's options and you control their outcome, even as they thank you for letting them decide. Every time you're handed a menu, a ballot, a question with neatly packaged answers, you believe you are sovereign. You never see the hands arranging the board behind the curtain. And if every choice you've ever made was an illusion, then who or what has been living your life all along? You obey more easily than you think. Stanley Milgram's infamous 1961 experiment revealed that ordinary people, under the command of an authority figure, would deliver what they believed were fatal shocks simply because they were told to. Machiavelli understood centuries earlier, appearances of power are enough to bend a man's will. Titles, uniforms, the weight of a crown, symbols of authority do not just compel others, they corrupt your sense of right and wrong. You meet someone confident, commanding, sure of themselves, and your spine softens. You defer. You trust their judgment more than your own. You even find yourself defending them to others, making excuses for them, silencing your own questions simply because you cannot bear the cognitive dissonance of challenging what looks like power and the darker truth. You crave that same effect. You dress the part, speak with certainty, feign control, and watch as others fold under the pressure of your invented authority. But when the masks fall and no one left is truly in charge, whom will you beg for permission to stop? Here is the cruelest tactic of all, the one you use against yourself. Jean-Paul Sartre called it bad faith, the human tendency to lie to oneself to avoid the terror of freedom. You tell yourself you are moral, rational, kind, while making ruthless, selfish calculations behind the curtain of your mind. Machiavelli warned that the greatest deception is self-deception, for once you believe your own lie, no one can save you. Psychologist Festinger showed this too. Cognitive dissonance isn't just discomfort, it's a weapon your mind turns inward, forcing you to believe whatever story keeps you intact. Every day you misread others, because you're terrified to read yourself. Every tactic you've learned, smiling as a weapon, silence as a trap, scarcity as a hook, you've already used on yourself, convincing yourself you were a victim, never the perpetrator. So now, if every move you thought was free was coerced, every word you thought sincere was calculated, and every thought you thought yours was fed to you, who exactly is sitting there pretending to be you? Who wanted to learn how to read others? You thought the enemy was out there in their smiles, their silences, their tactics. You imagined you could strip them bare, expose their motives, and stay intact. But here is the truth you've avoided all along. There is no line between them and you. There never was. Every tactic you've uncovered in others lives in you like a parasite. Every mask you've learned to spot is one you've worn yourself. You are not the reader. You are not even the book. You are the story they wrote in you long before you ever opened your eyes. Machiavelli was not writing about princes and peasants. He was writing about you, about how you've been ruled all along, how you rule yourself even now through fear, through lies, through hunger you dare not name. So you've learned to read anyone instantly. Congratulations. But now that you can see everyone, truly see them, tell me, can you stand to look at yourself?